Hello everyone, I'm Nikes, and for part 9 we move away from Team 10 to focus on what Team 7 is doing. Before we begin, I want to say that I will occasionally be narrating the story from the perspective of one of the characters, and can therefore be a flawed perspective. This isn't the first time I've done this already, but I feel the need to re-emphasize this in this chapter. Okay, onto the story. We start with Hinata lightly shaking Shikamaru awake. Huh? I'm sorry for waking you, but our Jonin sensei just came in. He told us to meet him on the roof in 5 minutes. Shikamaru looked around and saw that Sasuke had already left. The roof? Why couldn't he just talk to us here? I don't know, but we really should hurry. Why? It's not like he made an effort to be on time. Hinata doesn't respond but looks very uncomfortable. Fine, let's just get this over with, I guess. Hinata looks relieved and hurries towards the door, looks back, and now seems to be wondering whether she should run up the stairs to make sure she isn't late, as she clearly wants to do, or wait for Shikamaru so she doesn't leave him behind, which she is also reluctant to do. Shikamaru waves her forward. Go, I'll be there in a bit. Permission so received, Hinata starts running. Well, that's one who won't be bossing me around at least, Shikamaru thinks. Shikamaru pulls himself off of his seat. By the way he drags himself upward, you'd think that this was a task requiring some Herculean amount of effort. He makes his way up the roof, making absolutely no effort to hurry. Their sensei obviously didn't care about punctuality, so why should he? You're late, his Jonin sensei says once he finally makes his way up the stairs. Shikamaru quickly says the first bullshit excuse that comes to his mind. Sorry about that. I had this amazing dream and I had to write it down before I forgot about it. Well, next time, try to be on time, Kakashi says, and under his breath, too quiet for anyone else to hear, he would also say, going to have to remember that one. Alright, now that we are all here, let's introduce ourselves. He waited for someone to volunteer, but when nobody did, he picked one out at random. Alright, you, the girl with the thick jacket, you can start. Oh, my name is Hinata Hyuga. I'm very pleased to make your acquaintance, Hinata said, complete with a formal bow of the head. Kakashi waited for more, but none was forthcoming. Likes, dislikes, dreams for the future? Well, there are a couple of people I admire, that is, I'd like to be more like them. Dislikes? Well, I guess I really dislike myself, was Hinata's thought, but she couldn't actually say that, so she left that sentence unfinished. My dream is to not be such a massive failure, Hinata thought. Out loud she said, to be a decent shinobi? Alright, your turn, Kakashi said to Sasuke, and we're all big Naruto fans here, so we all know his answer by heart, so moving right along. Alright, last one. My likes? Don't you have access to some character dossier on me? Kakashi gave him an eye smile. Humor me. I like shogi, I dislike hard work, and I dream of going to bed early today. Kakashi sighed. It wasn't worth it to try to pull more out of him, so he moves right along and tells them of the true Genin test, and its high failure rate. Sasuke looked determined, and by determined, Kakashi meant that he knew for a certainty that he'd have no problems coming at him with intent to kill tomorrow. Hinata looked as if he had just ordered her execution. Shikamaru simply looked suspicious. Oh, shit, right, that's Shikaku's boy. Kakashi would need to find some way to prevent him from just telling his two teammates what the test was all about. That would defeat the whole purpose. Right. Meet me tomorrow at 5 AM, at Training Ground 3. Don't be late. Bring all the shinobi tools you have. Oh, and just a tip. I wouldn't eat breakfast if I were you. Otherwise you might just puke. The next day, at 9 AM, Kakashi was in a tree, stealthily observing his wannabe team for a while now. Sasuke had started training using some basic chakra control exercises. Kakashi approved, effective use of downtime. Shikamaru seemed to have roped Hinata into playing shogi against him. He seemed to have grown bored of simply wrecking her repeatedly, and now seemed to have switched to actually trying to teach her the game. That wasn't what really interested him, however. No, what really interested him, and what caused his one visible eye to twitch uncontrollably, were the three very large and now very empty bento boxes laying down on the grass. All of them had the Nara clan symbol on it. Kakashi knew Shikamaru would likely be a huge asset to his team should he decide to actually pass them all. Right now, however, the boy was getting on his nerves. Stop robbing him of his fun, damn it. Kakashi body flickered into the clearing and drank in the outrage of the kids like it was a fine wine. Even Hinata looked properly upset at him. Excellent. He swiftly explained the supposed rules of the bell test, and was sad to see that Hinata's anger was swiftly replaced by that bone-chilling terror from yesterday. That was one he wasn't going to enjoy testing today. Already he felt like he was kicking a homeless puppy. They'd need to work on that, should she actually pass. No ninja should rely on pity. He pressed the timer on the clock and the test had begun. They got out of the clearing as swiftly as they could and hid themselves. Not nearly good enough to hide from him, of course, but it was a decent effort nonetheless. He looked forward to seeing what they'd come up with, but first there was something he had to do immediately. Shikamaru was trying to make his way to Hinata as quietly as he could. He judged Hinata to be the most likely to listen and believe him concerning the true purpose of his test. Once she was on his side, it should be easier to convince Sasuke. Shikamaru would volunteer to give the 2 belts to his 2 teammates, so Sasuke should have no cause to complain. Not that Shikamaru actually expected that they'd be able to get the belts, even if they worked together perfectly, but that wasn't the point. They just needed to make a token effort as a team, wait until the timer ran out, and then they could go home. Or at least Shikamaru gave 8 to 10 odds of that being the case. There was also a chance that Kakashi was going to deliberately downplay his abilities, in which case they, and more importantly he, Shikamaru, would actually need to work to get those belts. Needless to say, he really hoped Kakashi would just run circles around them. Ah, there she is. Shikamaru was just about to signal Hinata when a shadow on the ground alerted him of an unwelcome arrival. Shikamaru made the mistake of looking around to see who it was instead of simply making a run for it, and was immediately punished for it with a needle piercing through his neck. While it didn't hurt a lot, he still briefly froze in terror. Any hit to the neck was potentially dangerous. His prospective teacher smiled at him through his mask and whispered, "Don't be scared. I don't kill people, at least not by accident." Without preamble, Kakashi pulled the needle out of his throat. Shikamaru opened his mouth to yell, "What the hell?" But his vocal cords refused to respond to him. That answered his question, and Kakashi confirmed it with his next words. "Sorry, but while this is a team test, I also want to test each of you individually. I can't just let you carry them to victory. Toodles!" With one last lazy wave, Kakashi disappeared again. Shikamaru cursed his rotten luck. When he had first come home after being informed of his new sensei and team and informed his parents thereof, his father had started to laugh at him. He said that the only thing that could have possibly made this any better was if Naruto Uzumaki was somehow also on his team. Well, at least there was one good thing about all this. Shikamaru now gave it 99% chance that they weren't actually supposed to get those belts. Hinata was sneaking through the forest, trying desperately to convince herself that she wasn't totally, 100% doomed. There was absolutely no chance that she'd be able to beat a Jonin in a fight, fair or otherwise. In the unlikely event that it was possible to get those belts, both Shikamaru and Sasuke, due to the simple logic of them being much better ninja than her, would be able to get them first. Everybody at home had already realized that she was a failure. How much worse would it be if she failed to become even a genin? Forget branding her with the cursed seal. They might just kill her just so that they didn't need to look at her and be reminded of just how low a member of their family could sink. Oh, what was she going to do? What was she going to do? "Sneak attack!" she heard Kakashi-sensei yell from behind her. That warning allowed her to jump out of the way of the incoming kunai. Kakashi jumped out of the woods, coming to a stop just in front of her. "Aha! So you managed to see through my sneak attack." Hinata wasn't sure how she was supposed to respond to that, so she remained silent. Kakashi put one foot in front of the other and held one arm at the ready, in a stance they had all learned in the academy. Lesson number 1. Taijutsu. It's supposed to be your specialty, right? Hinata suddenly felt a glimmer of hope. Her taijutsu sucked, but it was still her best skill. The gentle fist was supposed to be the best taijutsu style in the world, so maybe that alone, even when performed by the least of the Hyuga, would be able to impress Kakashi enough to allow her on the team. bells or no. Hinata made a hand sign. Byakugan! 5 minutes later. Kakashi was angry. No skip effort, he was livid. Kakashi didn't consider himself a particularly prideful man, but you didn't spend 2 decades of your life perfecting your skills without some pride and respect in those skills. Yes, Kakashi had respect for the shinobi arts in all its forms. So that was why this thing that Hinata was attacking him with made him so angry. Never in his life had he seen something that was so beautiful, yet so ugly. Tragic was the only word for it. His friend Guy would have had a heart attack if he saw this. Hinata had the kind of technical precision that could only come from practicing day in and day out for many years. It was impressive in one so young. That, for one of the most dangerous taijutsu styles in the world, meant that even a jonin like him shouldn't take it lightly. Or at least, that's what should have been the case. You learn something from sparring against someone, and in this brief exchange, Kakashi felt like he now knew everything he should know about Hinata Hyuga. Every strike she launched against him came with the absolute certain conviction that it would fail. Whenever she managed to parry one of his strikes, it was accompanied by a look of such surprise that it prevented her from counterattacking in time. Every dodge, though technically perfectly executed, didn't speak of, "I will not get hit," but rather, "Oh please, I don't want to get hit." To see such a perfect form and technique made worthless by such a broken spirit, tragic truly was the only word for it. Kakashi liked to think of himself as a reasonably calm individual, but right now he felt a sudden urge to go visit the Hyuga compound and pull an Itachi. The hell did they do to this girl? He decided to end the fight before his killing intent started leaking through. This girl really didn't need that on top of everything else. Kakashi swiftly grabbed Hinata's arm and hurled her into a nearby lake. He swiftly created a shadow clone to go lead Sasuke in circles for a while. Meanwhile, the real him decided to go spend a few minutes reading his favorite erotic novel so he could calm down. Some time later, Sasuke was exchanging blows with whom he swore would become his jonin sensei. Sasuke knew that he was the best of his classmates, yet this jonin was handling him with kid gloves on, and Sasuke couldn't be more satisfied because of it. This was what he had been looking for. A teacher and opponent who could push him to his limits and beyond. Sasuke suspected he had hit a plateau in the academy, with even most instructors no longer being able to sufficiently challenge him. Naruto had once told him how much she appreciated the chance to spar against him, and Sasuke suspected that wasn't just her idiotic infatuation with him talking. She told him she learned the most by sparring and occasionally losing against him than against anyone else, and now Sasuke felt like he completely understood where she was coming from. In this brief spar with Kakashi, Sasuke had been pushing himself to his limits and beyond, fighting harder and with more cunning than he had ever had before, even coming up with new moves on the fly. Yet for all that, he still hadn't been able to get one of those damn bells. He touched one briefly, but that was during the first few seconds of their fight when Kakashi still underestimated him. "I admit it, kid, you're good," Kakashi said during a brief break in the fight. "However, you're still just like every other student I failed." "We'll see about that," Sasuke thought and started making hand signs. "Fire style, fireball jutsu!" A ball of flame burst from his mouth and engulfed Kakashi. Sasuke didn't for a second believe he'd actually managed to have killed the jonin, so frantically started looking for him. The right, left, behind, above? "I'm where you least expect me to be." And in the next moment Sasuke was buried up to his neck in the earth, unable to move. Some more time later, Shikamaru had managed to fish Hinata out of the water, and through some vague sign language managed to convey to her that they'd need to work together to pass the test. Hinata had agreed and promised to hand the bells over to Sasuke and Shikamaru if they ever got them, which Shikamaru knew he wouldn't. He would have offered to be the one without a bell, since unlike him, Hinata actually seemed to believe this meant she had to return to the academy, but whatever. So long as someone agreed to give away the bells, it didn't matter. It was basically just a ploy to convince Sasuke to help them anyway, and to impress Kakashi. They found Sasuke soon after, and Shikamaru let Hinata dig him out of the ground. Shikamaru soon discovered a flaw in his plan, however. Since he couldn't speak, he had to rely on Hinata's persuasion skills to convince Sasuke. Sasuke-san, Shikamaru-san believes that we have a better chance of getting the bells if we all work together." Sasuke pointed out the obvious. There are only 2 bells. Hinata smiled, and it was a painful thing to behold. "I agree to go back to the academy." Sasuke thought about it. He really wanted to get those bells on his own, yet he had to admit that unless he came up with a really good plan, That likely wasn't going to happen. However, he wasn't sure how much help Hinata and Shikamaru would be. Shikamaru was the dead last of the academy and barely passed even the ridiculously easy graduation exam. Hinata might have some decent taijutsu, but they had never worked together, and if Hinata got into melee with Kakashi, that meant Sasuke couldn't use any of his more dangerous long-range tricks like the fireball technique. Much more important than any of that though, was that he wasn't going to let anyone sacrifice themselves on his behalf. If Hinata wasn't going to get anything out of it, then he wouldn't accept her help, regardless of how useful or not it would be. Sorry, but I'd rather go at it alone. I managed to touch one of those bells before. Next time, I'll take one. Sasuke resolved he would succeed or fail based on his own skill and conviction. He would go at it alone, and so only he would bear the consequences. Hinata nodded as if she had been expecting that answer, and started walking away. Even after she had given up all hope for herself, it had been presumptuous of her to believe she could help someone else. Now, all that was left for her was to think of what she'd do once she officially failed the test. Would her previous classmates still give her the time of day now? Would Naruto? Naruto had been such an inspiration to her when she started the academy. A failure, like herself, who kept on trying with all she had no matter how many times someone knocked her down, never letting any of the ridicule get to her. That hadn't lasted long, however, and within a few years she had clawed her way to the top and gotten just about all of their classmates to acknowledge her. Any difficulty she had experienced in the beginning had obviously been just a fluke. Hinata soon realized she had been dead wrong about Naruto. Naruto and Hinata were nothing alike. Naruto was a kind and amazingly talented genius, while she, Hinata, was and always would be a failure. Hinata heard Shikamaru run after her, but Hinata simply sped up her pace. She didn't want anyone to look at her. Wait, now she was crying? Damn it, why was she so damn pathetic? Later at noon. Since Shikamaru never made an attempt to get the bells, he ended up tied to the bell post without any lunch. He had made a few more attempts to get them all to work together, but all without success. He slowly started to feel like he could get a few words out of his throat again, but at this point he had just kind of given up on this team. He listened with half an ear to Kakashi explaining the true, and in Shikamaru's humble opinion very obvious, purpose behind the bell test. To Shikamaru's immense surprise, however, Kakashi offered them another chance. But at this point, he was just kind of done with this whole mess. It's not like he cared whether he became a genin this year or next year. And he also didn't for 1 second believe that Kakashi was going to drop him from the ninja program as he claimed. To Shikamaru's further surprise, both Sasuke and Hinata offered him their lunch. He looked from one to the other, incredulous. Really? After all this? Hinata soon wilted under his gaze. Of course, if you're not hungry. Just shove that sandwich down my throat so we can pass this test. And that's how Team 7 was officially born. Shikamaru wasn't sure whether that was a good thing for him or not. When he returned home, his father took one look at his expression and started laughing again. And that's where we're going to leave things for now. Please join me next time for part 10. Nikes out.